McFadden, and I'm the Executive Director with the Victoria Arts Council, as well as the co-lead with CreativeMornings Victoria. CreativeMornings is an international speakers platform, so there's 270 chapters all around the world, and we're all gathering this month to talk about thread, which is very exciting. So before I continue, I want to respectfully acknowledge the Lekwungen speaking people within whose traditional territory we operate. We give thanks to the Songhees, the Esquimalt, and Wassanic First Nations for the privilege of carrying out our work on these lands. I'm going to introduce Desiree, the other co-lead to Victoria's CreativeMornings.
Thank you, Kagan. Good morning, and welcome to CreativeMornings. Our theme for November, as Kagan said, is thread. It was chosen for us by our Derby chapter in the United Kingdom, illustrated by Carla D, and is presented by our global partner, Adobe. Have you ever pulled on a loose thread in a sweater or sock? Things can unravel quickly. The creative process can feel like that. A nagging thought, an imperfect bit, or a big tangled mess. Maybe that thread is trying to tell you something. Follow it and see where it takes you, because thread is both a physical and a metaphorical tool for creativity. In film and literature, thread is the progression of a plot line or theme that helps tie the narrative together. While in sewing, weaving, embroidery, and knitting, thread is physically embellishes and holds the piece together. No wonder a loose thread is so hard to ignore. It turns out that all the good and bad in our life is forming a beautiful tapestry. Adobe is CreativeMornings' new partner. Our partnership was made official last month at Adobe Max, an annual conference and global celebration of creativity. It's all online at max.adobe.com/maxonline. Thank you to the City of Victoria, the BC Arts Council, and the CRD for their continued support. And new this year, we are grateful for the Hammer Foundation. And without further ado, please welcome our speakers for today, Elizabeth Carefoot and Neera Huckvale, which Kagan.
We're really pleased that both Neera and Elizabeth accepted this invitation to speak in concert with this exhibition. And so Neera Huckvale studied at the Ottawa School of Art. Her work has been shown in Ottawa City Galleries, Montreal, and in Phoenix, Arizona. This is her first show in Victoria, so what a great way to start off. And of course, Elizabeth Carefoot is an eclectic artist, alternating between painting, stitching, and making dolls, schematic coats, as well as ceramics. She is well known on Vancouver Island and the Lower Mainland. Elizabeth has been the recipient of the Surrey Civic Treasure Award.
Included that and added this kind of material, but I also let the pieces, be larger so that you have these bulges that are created on purpose. And I love dance, which is the other kind of thing. If I'd been born tall and slim, I think I would have gone into dance. And I go to a lot of dance performances, and if you're familiar with Pina Bausch, the choreographer who did work in Germany after the Second World War, she had just amazing pieces. And at one point in one of her dialogues on her film, she said, dance, dance, otherwise we're all lost. And so it seemed like the perfect title for the piece. And it really took layers, so you can see like there's 2 or 3 layers of silk, one on top of the other, letting things go more free, allowing the things to go where they go. So that's one of the nice things, is being able to experiment and not insisting that everything go in a certain direction and trying new materials. Because if I start out with the idea, okay, this piece is going to be like this and I have to do it in a certain way, it never works. And plus I'm intimidated, I'm cutting this gorgeous piece of velvet or something, and what if I do it wrong? Whereas if I approach everything was, this is an experiment, it could work, it might not work, and if it doesn't work, then I'll try something else. And that serves me well, otherwise it's like, facing a blank
When
canvas.
I finish with the
I'm
piece,
tired.
it doesn't have that feeling.
It has a feeling more of joy and light. And I just assume that, part of my being is expressing itself, and that part is stronger than whatever else I'm feeling.
I'm here because this is my first experimental piece using organza. I went to Valley Village, my go-to shop for fabric, and I saw these curtains, gauze curtains, right, for the house. And there was a whole set of them, there was miles of it. Inexpensive. So I bought some, and I thought, this is really great, the see-through fabric. And then I went to various shops and discovered that organza comes in different colors. So I bought every single color of the rainbow I could find. I actually dyed some, which it didn't really work very well because this stuff is kind of an acrylic or something. Anyway, it's nylon, and it doesn't take dye very well. However, some of the lighter pieces are hand dyed by me. And because I have a bad back and I have to sit down a lot, I do a lot of my work in sections. So I made each, you can probably see each little square. So I could sit in my chair and make each individual square, and then I put them onto the organza with these wild stitches, which have another history, which I'll address later on. So I call this Persephone's veil. Persephone was the goddess of spring, and my fantasy was that she rose out of the underworld in the spring, and she took off. This was a painting that I felt fit across the land. I have my original bachelor's was in painting as a major, and my secondary major was textiles. So I felt myself a painter. So I did a lot of painting before I even picked up a needle. And this one, it kind of failed. So when I came back to it, I got mad at it. I just cut out the bits I didn't like. But then I couldn't help myself, and I had to stitch into it. So that's what I did. I made various simple stitches into the holes. And I think it works. I really like it now. And when we moved into our house, I decided to have a kind of a little piece in the kitchen to celebrate our new house. So I made these three vegetables, my three most hated vegetables. A carrot, a radish, and an eggplant. This, I made this one while on holiday in Roatan. My husband's a marine biologist, and we always go somewhere where there's a reef. So our holiday was just washed out with rain, drizzle, drizzle, drizzle the entire 10 days. But heck, I looked at the water all over the patio, and then each little drizzle drop made, they make these little circles. Mm-hmm. I had all this silk, offcuts from a scarf. So I made them into these little drizzly, rounded shapes. Everything is hand-stitched. The only non-hand-stitched piece in this entire collection is this one. So everything is hand-stitched. This one was just an exercise and a lot of fun. It was very easy to work on felt. I really like working on felt. And I like working on the non-wool felt because the moths don't get at it. Mm-hmm. And you can see I'm very joyful with my colors. I love flowers.
I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry.
I love flowers, and this was just an expression of my joyfulness in my life. I'm a very kind of joyful person, even though I may not come through all the time. But I find I'm really blessed. And when I work on any object that I do, I feel myself in a state of grace, that I'm sort of out of my body. Time goes by. My husband comes, it's dinner. Oh, already? Okay. These two pieces kind of go together. This is very interesting because my grandmother was born in Siberia. Mm. And she told me these wonderful tales of magic and the Siberian way of life and all of their traditions and their symbolism. So I ran with it. And I made a whole series of these robes. They're not Siberian in any sense. They're just I just got the feeling that a shaman would have these wonderful robes somehow. So I did a whole bunch of these. Some of them are painted like this one on canvas and then embellished with stitches and a lot of Middle Eastern stuff. And if you notice that a lot of my shapes are this circle. I have a lot of circles. How should I put it? When I worked at SFU, I worked with an archaeologist who worked with Neolithic objects, Neolithic archaeology. And this was a goddess shape, this sort of rainbow shape. I really like that shape. It's very feminine and it's very strong at the same time. So a lot of my stuff refers to that shape. The symbolism here, this is snow, of course, in Siberia, there's a lot of snow. This is a bit of the sky that's fallen to earth. The red is blood, meaning life. And the metal reflects back all the bad stuff. And so I took all that symbolism and kind of put it together and then made this thing just for fun. This is an old orange peel. I use everything that comes to hand. Then I've always wanted to see the Northern Lights. Never saw the Northern Lights. I thought, I'll make my own Northern Lights. But it didn't work out. I don't make sketches. I used to. And like Neera, it was so frustrating. The thing just wanted to go its own way. So I embraced the Japanese wabi-sabi, which is embrace the wonky. So this has been my philosophy throughout my life, embracing the wonky. And so this one went the way it wanted to go. I let it go. Oh, it was difficult to work with because of the so many layers. And you can see it kind of puckers. I didn't handle it properly, but I kind of like it. It's true to the fabric, you know. I didn't force it to do anything. I got to tell you about these stitches. When my granddaughter was 8, I'll go back. My grandmother taught me every stitch of the universe. I couldn't believe it. So many different stitches. I had this big book of how to do stitches. And then so I thought, this is something a grandmother teaches her granddaughter. So Allison, I said, Allison, we've got to learn how to stitch. So I gave her the needle, blah, blah, blah. After a few minutes, I looked at her work. Oh, God. It was just awful. It was tangled and threads were all over and broken threads and everything else. She said, Grandma, I'm not having fun. I said, that's okay, Allison, you're not a stitcher. So I put it away. And then a couple of years later, I took it out again. I took her little piece out. And I thought, you know, this is very artistic. It's so free. And it's so muscular. Her stitches were muscular. Do you know what I mean by muscular? And I thought, yes. Allison, do you mind if I use your technique? I didn't say that. But now I always give her a credit. I always give Allison a credit for teaching me how to do these very freeing, wonderful stitches. Flowers. Then I taught myself how to knit. And I did all these various shapes and stuffed them, and I put them together just willy-nilly. I made 3 really long ones, which sold immediately in the first 2 minutes I put them up. And these were the leftovers, so I thought, well, I'll just put them together and show you. They're a lot of fun to do. And again, I can sit down and knit little bits and pieces so that the time doesn't go by too much, and I can use my scraps. These 2 pieces I have to thank my friend, Stu Schutze, his name is, I must pronounce it correctly. I discovered him, he was a forger of steel. And I saw his stuff in his workshop, in his garage. He's got everything there going. He's got this big forge and big hammers and all kinds of interesting things. I said, Stu, could you make me a hanger? He said, sure. So this is the start of a great relationship. So he made that one first, and then I sketched one out for him, and he made this. And then I just added stuff to it. Mostly it's knitted and then bound on really thick rope and embellished. And this is, again, a Middle Eastern piece of bridal jewelry. It's a much like this. It's an amulet for good luck. And yeah, we have a good relationship now. He's making me a third hanger, which I don't know what it's gonna be quite like. I kind of let him do his little artistic process. And yeah, so that's my life. Thank you for listening. Right.
So did you want to talk about the kind of different influences?
Well, no, because I,
Great, okay, next question.
because I'm not sure what I was supposed to say. It just came.
Yeah.
I just knitted these bits, and they were just bits. And then I just put them together as best I could. I tried to use them all up because they're labor intensive. And this just came of it. I just threaded and unthreaded and pushed them through each other and tied knots into them. I discovered these rings at the dollar store, which I painted. So whatever came to hand, and I just let it do its own thing. Like Neera says, I just let the piece tell me what it wants to do. But again, I really love this Neera
Doing it.
Yeah. It's always great to meet you artists, Neera, and Elizabeth is a long-standing friend of the Arts Council by now, even though you're not, you haven't been in the city all that long either. If you're ever interested in learning more about the Victoria Arts Council, I've left cards here, these pink cards. We've got a shop over on Fort Street, and we do this lecture series every month. So it's always a different theme, different artist, and lately a different location. So we're quite nomadic. But if you're interested in learning more about Creative Mornings, you can go to the Victoria Arts Council's website, vicartscouncil.ca, or just drop us an email. Thanks very much.
Thank you.